identification.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hello, people. Welcome, welcome. I'll wait a few minutes before everybody gets on in here. Yeah, Grace, Dana B, and B Charmin in here already.
Yeah. The regulars.
Yeah.
And there's Dana B. I know her from somewhere, but
it's a toasty one today.
Oh man.
Yesterday I was out in the morning because I figure I get out there early in the morning and get it done. That battery operated mower is on its last leg, I think, because it was better once I cleaned it out and everything, because I hate mowing wet grass.
Yeah.
Because it cakes up in there and then it's just harder to mow stuff. But and it's a mulcher, so it has more of an issue.
Right.
But I probably an hour, 2 hours I was out because I watered my garden. I staked up some tomatoes. I still have more to do, but by the time I came in here, I had to basically get naked and change out my clothes because every bit of my clothes was soaking wet.
Yep.
I mean, drenched.
Yep.
I hung everything up so it would dry and everything. It was just, and it's not so bad when you're outside, but when you come into it feels good when you first come in, but then you get that feeling when your body's trying to cool down and there's too much coldness coming in. And you just start sweating like crazy.
Yeah, I've had, and a lot of people, they don't believe me, but I do it. I've had 3 showers today. 3, no, literally 3. Because I mean, you get so hot that you just can't put a fresh pair of clothes on because you stink. So,
I know. I'm
not talking about in the backyard with a garden hose. I'm talking in the house, in the shower with soap and whatever. And then back up because, everything sticks. So it's tough.
It could, Robert Bates, it could be. Depends where you live. And, a lot of people say, oh, it's bad down south and everything. But I'm feeling a lot of the weather in Ohio nowadays feels like the South. And I've lived in the South, so I know the difference. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just, a lot of moisture in a certain time of period, because everything goes in cycles. Mm-hmm. And it could just be, it's the cycle of a lot of humidity.
Now, I'll give you an example. This morning, well, I've been up since, I didn't get much sleep last night anyway, but that's another story.
Oh, same here.
But I went to get some ethanol-free gasoline for the boat, and there was a cloud burst. There was a lump of clouds that came off the Gulf and was just sitting over part of the county. And I mean, the bolts of lightning that were coming out of this storm, it almost sounded like you were in a firefight, like with 6-inch guns. I mean, mortars. And I mean, it was, and here I am pumping gas. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm done. And I just, I finished filling that tank up. I was going to do my truck, and I'm like, no, I'm done. And I took off. And then it cleared out and went away, but then it's all sticky. And then the mosquitoes come. Mosquitoes are horrible down here. If you got standing water, like I have a lot of bird baths and stuff because I like birds, and so does my pops. And it's just if you don't clean that water every day, it's the mosquito
Oh yeah.
is terrible. And then the my pool, if you don't watch out, once a week, there's 25,000 eggs in it, and they're frogs, frog eggs. Even though it's a chlorinated pool and it's super clean, the frogs are just everywhere down here. And they come in one night. I don't know how many eggs a female will drop, but you can see them. They're all little black.
Oh yeah.
They're like pinheads, dark
In
pinheads.
mud puddles and stuff. Yeah.
So there's a lot of pluses and a lot of minuses living down here. That's for sure. But you can
Oh
say
yeah.
that about any place.
Yep. Yep. And that's why I said it used to be, you say, well, we don't have that much humidity up here, so the summers aren't as bad.
They are.
But yeah. Now, if I go out west, it would being back here so long, it would probably take me a season to get used to it. Or not because I've been through it. But I remember when we just had my oldest daughter and we went to Arizona, and my wife's brother went with us, and we decided to pull his vehicle. We got a trailer mount thing for the front of his vehicle, and I pulled it all the way to Arizona. And when we got there, I actually got a house, and tells you how long ago it was. It's $350 a month for a house. And the house, the back of the house, we had a lemon tree, a grapefruit tree, and an orange tree. Perfect combination.
Yeah.
And down the road had a pomegranate tree.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to trade lemons for pomegranates to the old lady that lived there. But he had the heat on the whole time. He would sleep next to the heater, brother-in-law. And me, I'm still going around in shorts and short shirt and whatnot. It was just normal weather for me. And I had got a job selling. What you get out of there, cat? What are you doing? Solar screens. It's a screen that goes on the windows to stop the sunlight to go through.
Right.
Not the sunlight, but the heat. And basically, it was my job to get the salesman in there. Well, I did such a good job. I sold the stuff before the salesman came in. So I was making some money. I was making $4,000 or $5,000 a week,
Nice.
and that was in the 90s.
Back then.
Yeah, and then they started introducing a installation, which was newspaper was sprayed with some kind of chemical.
Cellulose, they call it.
Yeah, and people were buying that stuff up left and right in Arizona because of the heat,
Right.
So that I was making more money on that. I couldn't get him out of the house because he was freezing all the time, and it was the change of climate. It was the dry air and everything. He had an opposite reaction that would made him cold, even though it was, it was wintertime, but it's 80, 90 degrees. And we were actually doing pretty good there. And the best for me, the best part was the same old lady that I used to get tamales from was still kicking and still selling the tamales and stuff. I actually drove like 10 miles to get where this lady sold tamales, because I remembered where she her route and everything, and she still remembered me and everything, because I would the time I used to buy tamales were $1 each, and I would tell her I want 10 tamales, and I would give her 20 and told her to keep the change. And she always remembered me for that. Um, and went down there every day and got tamales, and went back up and did my normal routes and everything.
Right.
Until I found out that, um, we ended up having to go back to Ohio for my father-in-law and stuff. So he ended up staying there. Long story short, he didn't pay rent, that kind of thing. And we ended up getting creditors coming after us, because he agreed to us that he would continue paying rent, because leases and stuff. And yeah, he wasn't meant for the West Coast. But there, like I said, there is a thing where it takes people time to get used to climates.
Well, they say your blood thins in a hotter climate,
Yeah,
allegedly.
and the thing about out in Arizona, a lot of people with lung issues go out west, because the moisture in their lungs and stuff.
Yeah.
But tonight, I wanted to go over, it's all over the news and all over everywhere about the Texas floods and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what better shift scenario is a flood? Things that you could do, if there's a flood. Of course, there's been, in the last few years, there's been a lot of floods. North Carolina had a bunch, Kentucky, the list could go on.
Yeah.
But you would think that people who live next to a river know it's a possibility that the river rises, when there's a lot of rain. So there's a possibility of flood. Just, you go back 4 years ago, I think it was, the great Arctic storm of Texas.
Yeah, it got the power grid.
Yeah. Now that's something different. That's something that happens maybe every 20 years, 10, 20 years, or whatever it is, where a really bad storm happens. Now, floods happen quite often.
Yeah.
So you should be more prepared for that than, living in a desert and getting an Arctic blast that comes through. So
I mean, I'm not going to say anything just because it's not my channel, but there's more to what happened in Texas than.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to get too much into the conspiracy stuff.
No, me neither.
It's more of preparedness type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I saw some people on the news that said that, their insurance didn't require them to have flood insurance.
Yep.
So, I mean, and insurance companies, they're thieves to begin with. So they're gonna, if you got a brook that's 6 inches wide, they're gonna get you for flood insurance. So if they say you don't need it, and your house,
that means you need it.
Yeah, I mean, but.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, that was my.
As long as you don't fart, Jeff, you can come up.
Yes, you can come up. I sent you a link, didn't I? As far as I know, I did.
Drop the Jeff link.
The Jeff link. Oh, here's the Jeff link.
Dang it, Bobby.
I need to change it.
Is that King of the Hill?
Damn it, Jeff.
Oh.
Yeah. I hate to see when that people die and stuff. That's always going to happen. There's people losing their houses. That's always going to happen. And I hate to bring up, because I do have somebody that I know that lives in Florida. But there's people that live in Florida that hurricanes have done damage or took out their houses. But they still go back and live in Florida. Now, that doesn't mean that they're, dumb or anything. That just means that they want to live there.
Yeah.
There's a reason behind them living there. Now, that doesn't mean that
All right, now, Jeff. Turn YouTube off.
Got it. I did.
And,
Yeah.
Why do I have to enter my zip code?
and we're
What?
Thing popped up about the same time as this one did. It said enter your zip code.
your computer has been compromised.
That ain't the only thing that's going to get compromised. No. My wife.
Oh, I don't want to.
ticked off.
No, I ain't going there.
Oh no, I'll go there.
That's a private conversation between you and Dixie.
And I'm gonna laugh about it.
We don't need to know. We don't need to know nothing about that.
How close is Dixie?
No, question
Dixie,
is
how
how
close
close she is. How close is she to that frying pan?
She ain't
She
that
don't-
far from me. She said,
You know,
She don't need a frying pan.
You can throw it too.
"Oh no, wait a minute, hold on. I want you to see what I did." Give me a minute. You ain't going to unless I get a wire brush.
Yeah, I'll make a comment real quick. There are people that condemn people that live in, flood zones or possible flood zones. And that, to me, that's not, you don't call somebody stupid or dumb because they live in that area. There's a lot of people live in areas that have never seen a flood for 200 years or so, but all of a sudden it floods. Is it their fault? No. It's, the act of nature thing. Okay, Jim or Jeff.
Jim, no, Jim isn't here yet. It's not 9. What?
Do not tell me you cannot burn water. Shut up. My story. Be quiet. It's my story.
What? This is odd.
There was some vinegar in there too.
You notice something? Jeff's camera's flipped around.
Yeah, the door's open the other way.
Yeah, usually the door's on the other side.
Did you move that?
Yeah,
in?
but I got the door wide open. I got windows open. I got fan going. Damn near had to buy another stove.
Uh-oh. Do you have a gas stove or electric?
Oh, Lord. Needless to say, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, see?
Now,
So
what had happened, let me cover my backside just in case.
I'd cover your head first.
In front and side.
You got your hard
What
hat
happened
on?
was, just wait. what happened was I put a pot of water on with sugar in it to make my tea. Okay.
Oh.
Now then my next door neighbor pulls up with 5 chickens, 4 chickens, 1 rooster. So I go out there and I help her. By that time, I done forgot I put the water and sugar on. I come back in the house. I thought Dixie done burnt something.
What were you doing? What were you doing the water for?
Is tea.
See,
Why don't you add the sugar to the tea instead of adding it to the water?
No, because it sinks to the bottom if it's cold.
Well, you
It
stir it.
takes longer for it to dissolve.
yeah,
Eh,
and it don't taste as good.
yeah. You make a what they call a simple syrup thing, and then you mix it together.
Yeah. See, Grace knows.
But what I do is I set my timer, which I set my timer this time. I just wasn't in hearing this.
But Dixie didn't hear it.
Dixie fell asleep on the couch.
So
She did not know I put water on. Okay.
oh, okay.
Well, Grace is doing a lot of kicking.
Look, the story is about over and done with. Just calm down in there.
Dixie, you owe Jeff a pot.
Don't make Dixie get up.
Oh, she's already up. And if you noticed, I had my chair aiming toward the door. So when she comes through the kitchen door, I'm gone.
That pot's nice and rounded now on the bottom. That'd go good on your skull.
Look,
You could wear that as a
do me a
helmet.
favor. Do me a favor. Close your eyes for a minute.
You're gonna
That's
put
what
that.
color my pot is.
Yeah.
It was pure silver. Well,
Oh,
silver.
stainless steel.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
It ain't now. It ain't now. I'm gonna have to take a what? I done that one time before, probably about 10 or 15 years ago. But I'm gonna have to take a wire brush to it to get it clean. Lord have mercy.
Hide the frying pan.
Now go ahead and face it and get it over with. They have declared Alamance County in North Carolina a disaster zone.
Well, who declared it though? That's a big difference.
I think the president declared it,
Oh, okay.
if I heard right. But I mean, you can't hardly go nowhere up there. My daughter lives about 3 miles from work. Okay, she couldn't make it to work. They told her to stay home.
Well, that's good that they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people are familiar with Burlington or whatever. But now, Saxon,
Jennifer.
I used to live down there. They had a picture of the first flood that I helped work in, okay? And the one today. The same woman took the picture of before and today, 30 years ago to date in 97. But this one is a lot worse than the 97.
Yeah, and somebody had pointed out, I didn't pay attention to the date or anything. I set up my live. Today is the 7th month, and it's at 7:00. And yes, I know that's 21. But yeah,
Not only that is not only is it 21, it's God's favorite number.
yeah,
777.
777. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody will learn something tonight that they didn't know. Who knows? But again, I thought it was a good idea that we go over the, you know, and people think a shift is you know, the government collapsing and the power goes out and there's marauders in the streets and stuff. Of course, yeah, that would be a shift, but it could be something like a hurricane in Florida, you know, because it happened.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be the flood in North Carolina. It could be the flood in Texas. You know, there's a lot of various things that a shift could be. And
I know before I come up, Eric mentioned something about the weather in Texas. And Eric, I'm not going to ask you what do you think about it because I already know the same thing I do. But what can cause blue rain? I'm going to leave it alone at that.
Airplanes have to dump their payload.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is, airplanes do release that stuff sometimes. I don't know what the protocol for it or anything is, but people have, you know, witnessed a big blue turd splatting on their windshield and stuff.
Oh, yeah. You know,
But I'm not saying that that's what caused anything or anything, but yeah.
Well, there's other things that can cause blue rain. Also,
Yeah.
you know, but,
different chemicals and whatnot.
yeah. And you know, your trailways, buses, and campers and stuff like that. And this is fact. I've seen this myself up in Jersey when they went across the ocean up there. He went real slow, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that came out the back end of that bus. He cleaned the septic system out.
Oh yeah, that's the same thing. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, you know, airplane flew over Texas and caused the flood or anything, but
no, but people in our group, not just ours, but all over, we know what happened.
Yeah. But I went ahead and made a list, you know, of, you know, if God forbid you're in those areas and that's the thing, you know, some of these areas are known for floods, and instead of, you know, upstream where the floods come from has a warning system other than, you know, somebody on the news saying, hey, you know, be careful because there could be floodwaters tonight. You know, who really pays attention to the news nowadays?
Exactly.
Why not put a early warning system that is triggered from upstream where the water comes from to these other locations downstream? You know, we have tornado sirens. Why don't you have another type of siren that goes off saying, hey, because, you know, if you live by the ocean in some areas like Japan, well, Japan, they have multiple warnings when there's a tsunami coming.
Yeah, they do.
When a tsunami comes, before it even happens, there are so many warnings that go off saying to head to high ground or whatnot. A lot of people, you know, shrug it off or something, but at least they have a warning. these rivers, it cost $100,000 to put these sirens throughout the river areas and stuff like that. Well, how much value do you put on one human life? How do you determine it? Of course, they know the value of that person, but do they really know the value of that person? How do they know, like these girls that died in that campground didn't come up with an invention to cure cancer, which I already know there's already a cure out there, but
there is.
makes it to where everybody gets it for free and stuff like that. So there's no more cancer. How do you put a value on that human life that knows that?
It's greed.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Everything goes back to greed.
And I'm not saying nothing about YouTubers or anything like that, but as soon as something like this happens, they run their little tails down to that location. Woof, they throw their drones up and get all the footage they want, and boy, their channel goes up. And how much of that money do they share with the survivors or the non-survivors of that flood?
Hey, what?
Yeah.
Hey, what? And I'm not saying that some of them do give money back to, causes and whatnot. There are a lot of good YouTubers out there that do help out and whatnot. We had a tornado last year. I think it was last year. Yeah. I actually went down, but I was told to leave because my blood pressure went too high. Which if it this year, I'd be fine, but that's beside the point. And I do know other YouTubers that do, they do give money, they do go out and they help people and whatnot. Arms Family Homestead, I think their name is. Their town got demolished in Oklahoma, and they went down for 2-3 weeks and helped clean that town up to get aid to come in to help them, but I don't think they ever showed up. But to me, that's the good YouTubers when they go out and help.
Right.
And they film a little bit just to show the devastation of stuff. And I guarantee you, he donates to the city and stuff like that.
Well, now, I kind of got to say this. I do agree with the people with the drones going up, and getting footage. Because without people like that, people like us would not know exactly what happened. But the point of the matter is, maybe 2 or 3 of them. There ain't got to be no 20 or 30 or 40 of them out there.
Oh, yeah. There's so many of them. And shorts about this, and, if we're all on the internet nowadays, so everybody sees it.
Yeah.
And it's like these people that see a dog or a cat walking across the street, instead of helping it, let's get the camera ready, and they film it, and then they get thousands and thousands of views on it. They don't care if they get bad comments or anything, because that's a view.
Yep.
A bad view's better than no view, right?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, and talking about your government and everything, I'm sorry, I'll be the first one to say it up on here. They don't give two plug nickels about us.
Oh no, that's um, I'll go over this list, and
Yes, sir.
that's the thing is if you feel that you
Yeah.
um,
No cows, no horses. Tell your cow. Tell your mama, no cow, no horse. Chickens and goats is fine. I ain't telling you no cows or horses. I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
of no cows, no. What about a mule?
You know what? You got a big mouth. I have thought about a mule. I really.
Or a donkey. I'm sorry. A mule is half horse and half donkey, isn't it?
Well, I look at it like this: if I get one and somebody coming up, petting it, I can always say, "Are you playing with my rear
Yeah. Oh, there's a name I hadn't seen in a long time.
Off the wall property.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. What's it been? About 3-4 years?
Something like that. But anyway, I wanted to go over this list, and there are the people that will wait for the government to come out and save them, but
Not North Carolina.
well, I'm sure there still are people out there waiting for the government to come.
There he is. You'd be surprised. The government ain't really done jack up in there.
Oh yeah, and they won't. I mean, even if it, and don't take this the wrong way. Even Trump being president, he's going to tell the government to go help and whatnot. They're not going to help as much as they used to back in the day. Just like Red Cross. Everybody's all up, woo, Red Cross and everything, but by the time they get up and going in a location to give out snack food and water and whatever, it's pretty much over by then. I do say that Red Cross will be out there before FEMA does. So,
well, now you got to admit, at one time, Red Cross and FEMA was good.
Yeah,
and I reckon the power and the authority got to them.
Yeah, there's too many. Well, before we head out, we have to make sure we do this checklist and make sure so-and-so okays it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on vacation. Oh, well, we still have to wait for that, so-and-so to okay it.
Red tape.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to come straight out and say it, but you know why FEMA left the first go round, don't you? In North Carolina? It wasn't just North Carolina. It was Virginia. I want to say Kentucky. All them places up in there.
Yeah. Fearing for my life.
Yeah. See, I didn't. Yeah. I'm going to leave it alone at that.
Yeah.
That's almost as bad as revenuers going up in the mountains.
Yeah. I remember, well, I don't remember, but I remember stories of revenuers actually have an army with them. And they got shoot out, so to speak.
Well, now, do you recall the name Thunder Road?
I've heard about it.
Okay, normally 99.9% of what you heard is true. Okay. Just about every one of my relatives lives on Thunder Road up in there. And man, there was some cars that went through there like a bat out of hell.
Oh yeah,
Any roller coaster you'll ever ride.
yeah. Well, every area has that's the same thing as a dead man's curve.
Yeah.
Everybody has a dead man's curve.
Yeah, but I think this one was the original Thunder Road. They went from North Carolina into Tennessee.
Well, I don't know what the route was called, but we had one, and that's not up where I'm at. That's down south, the southern part of Ohio, where they would run.
Yeah.
And they were, popo and revenuers and the whole shebang to stop them, and they never got stopped. Some would get stopped, some ended up in prison and whatnot, but the majority of them outsmarted them, and it's just like anything else, But let me go ahead and get started on this list. And this is before, things happen. The first thing is know your risk, understand your location, flood risk, identify evacuation routes. I think that's very important. Like where I am at, I would have so much of a warning before my house would be in a flood area, or if water would get up to me. The whole town would have to be like in 30 feet of water or something like that.
Hell, by that time, you can't go nowhere.
Well, I would be, with my kayak. But like if you're in an area or you're moving to an area, do research. Even if there's no rivers around or anything, do research. What are history of that area? When's the last time there was a flood in a 50-mile radius of your location? Knowing your area, it could be the thing. Like Eric down there, hurricanes all the time, so he already knows his area. But
yeah. Somebody
moving to around your area, unless you're up on a mountain somewhere or in the mountains, even if you are in the mountains, you still have like flash floods and stuff like that from the mountains. Knowing your location and how far you are from different routes from a river and stuff like that, and how often do dams close the dam, and how often do they release the water, because down here we had 1902 or 1912, something like that. It was a long time ago. It flooded so bad it was 13 feet above everybody's houses in Roscoe. And the thing is, it flooded like not that bad, but it flooded like every 4 years. There was a flood that would come up to maybe the streets or something like that. So everybody knew this, but yet nobody was prepared for it. And that's, that could save somebody's life, not to mention yours, but your family members. And knowing this happens, chances are every 4 years there's going to be a flood. Be prepared for that. And that's where, evacuation routes, what would you do if the spot you're in right now started flooding? You woke up and, upstream, they said that it's already 4 feet in our house. Well, that means maybe a half an hour to a couple hours, it could be that much in your house. So that's preparing for something like that. Then what do? Have an emergency plan, develop a family communication plan, and practice it. Just don't say it, that's like you go into Walmart or Dollar General or whatever, and they have this little thing that says, if there's a fire, go here. And it says, you are here, go there. What does that do if you're in the back storage and there's a fire back there and you have nowhere to get out? You need to have a plan to get out, and just because there's a sign that says it doesn't mean that little sign, oh, hold on, there's a fire next to me, let me go get this map so I know how to get out of the store. A lot of times it's common sense, but common sense doesn't matter when there's a raging fire or a flood coming through the windows. Some people react different to danger. And then emergency kit. Emergency kits could be, a bug out bag. I'm not saying it is, but it could be the same principle.
Hey, Bush, I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay. Essential supplies, non-perishable food, water, since everybody forgets water, medications. So many times that most of us are on medications nowadays. Some people can't go 24 or 48 hours without taking their medication. So having, a backup prescription in a go bag or whatever you want to call it just makes sense. And 101 will be shining happy when I say this, but flashlights, making sure your flashlights have batteries or making sure they strobe back and forth. Just joking on the strobing, but
I don't know about
radios, what is it? NOAA? National, whatever it is, the weather thing that you can crank up. I've got, well, I did have it. Oh, here it is. A radio that you can actually crank up. You don't need batteries. You can put batteries in it, but you can crank it up. Has a flashlight, emergency, all that stuff. Those things you could save your life. Just something that simple. All that kind of stuff. And there are other things like say you know ahead of time that there's possibility that your house is going to be your house is going to be flooded. There are certain things that you would want to do in your house, like your furnace. Say you have a gas furnace and it floods. What happens to the gas that's in that furnace? that's in those pipes. A lot of times if there's a flood, that gas will escape and build up in a certain location in your house. And
Mhm.
if there's a spark or anything, it could blow up. I'm not saying it's possible or anything, but it's happened. Shutting off your gas. If you're in a flood area, make sure your water has, or your sewage, make sure your sewage has a system to where it blocks, like a chuck valve that
What do you sound?
that won't back up, huh?
No, your sound volume level went way down.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, and come back up.
Oh, is it normal now?
Yeah, it's normal now.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's desktop. Never mind. But yeah, that's yeah, exactly. Know where your shutoffs are for your water and stuff. Those kind of things. And it's not like wait until it happens, because a lot of this stuff, it could mean coming back to your house and just having to deal with the flood stuff, or not having a house left. Yeah, waterproofing a lot of stuff, having a stump pump or something like that. And again, we talk about generators. Generators are quite expensive now. If you go back to, I think it was 2021 when I actually got mine. I paid around $200 for it. That same generator is $400 and $500 now for just a little bitty thing. And there are people that will go out and buy, real expensive ones and it depends. Some people need the bigger generators to run a well or something. And that's another thing. If you come back and if you have a well that has your place had just got flooded, well, guess what? All the stuff that come down from that river and stuff is going to be in your well.
Yep.
So how do you deal with that? Do you start drinking that well water? There's a lot of stuff to think about, and nobody ever thinks about this stuff. Nobody's prepared for these floods. Say you have family members in your house that don't know how to swim or can swim, but just don't have the strength to keep them treading water for 2 hours. How many people can tread water for 2 hours? Not saying that you would be, floating down a river for 12 hours, but you never know. Look at Katrina. I think that's the one that was in Louisiana, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were people that were sitting in water for hours and hours, and probably a day or so. If they, didn't succumb from the, just drown and whatnot. What they wouldn't give for some way to float. It could be something as simple as a pool noodle. Imagine something that you get at the dollar store. Well, $1.25 store now.
I'd have to have about 3 of them.
Saving somebody's life. It's weird to think about something like that. But you stop and think of somebody that was in Katrina that was sitting out there, treading water for 8 hours, and they're just about to give up. What they wouldn't give for a dollar pool noodle just to have a rest.
Well, now I heard somebody say, I cannot remember who it was, but they was told, and something like a situation like this, take a Sharpie marker, write your name and address on your arm, just in case something bad was to happen. They
Yeah.
know who you are and everything. You
Yeah.
know, you never know.
Yeah. Um, and I hate bringing this up, but it's totally different from a flood, but they are still trying to identify everybody from the 9/11 thing.
Really? I thought that was over and done with.
Oh no, they're still trying to track everybody that was there. You know, they find, and I don't like talking about, they find bits and pieces
Yeah.
because you know, and they don't know if it came from the plane or came somebody visiting the building or what. They're still, because there's still people missing that has never been found. There's no trace of them. So when they can put a fragment of a shoe or what's in a shoe to a person, that's one person that they don't have to keep looking for, so to speak. And it's, you know, it's sad to talk about, but it is what it is.
You know, here in the last couple of years, and I'll put it like that, and I've said it one other time before, but it wasn't on somebody's life. I seriously believe that God is going to start calling up some of his people. Because you look at what's going on around the world, not just here, it's around the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people who are not here with us now. Okay. And the reason I think that is God needs help building mansions up there.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
That's my belief. That's the way I'm thinking. All right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everybody is going to have a part in heaven, regardless.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with that, but I don't think he needs help.
No, he don't. He don't.
Yeah.
But,
He snapped his fingers and boom,
yeah,
there's the universe.
But like I said, I believe he is starting to call a lot of his people home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the reason, you know.
Well,
but
you know, there's a war coming.
now, which war are we talking about?
I'm-
we talking physical or spiritual?
I'm talking about the last one.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's around the corner.
It seems like it, you know. The more stuff going on, it's yeah. I think that's, there's a, you know, reason why, because I was starting to get 3-4 hours of sleep at night. Now I'm back to 1-2 hours again, if that. And there's a reason behind it, you know. Remember, everyone deployed. I still, when it's not, you know, silence area, when all communications are knocked out and stuff, like, not knocked out, but turned off.
Yeah.
I'm still talking to my son, you know, keeping his spirits up and stuff like that, because I wouldn't wish that on anybody, to have a family and a little boy growing up to have to leave them and go over to some place, and you know, it's hard. It's just not hard on him. It's hard on his wife and his kids. You know, it's not a good thing.
It's not. And the bad thing about it is somebody has to do it.
Yeah, and it irritates me. That's why I stay away from the news. I don't want to hear stuff. If I need information, I have places I can get this information. The point being is it's real hard for me, especially when I see our own government putting down military personnel and, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, I put it like this. My brother was overseas and he saw his share. I'll put it like that.
Mhm.
He was at the start of Iraq, with Osama bin Laden. That was his first go round.
Yeah.
A few years ago, he finally got out, discharged, honorable discharge and everything. And some of the things wrong with him, the government won't help him with.
Oh yeah.
He wouldn't have had this if he hadn't gone over there for them, for us.
Well, I hate to say it, but there are things that, you know, the government can't help, even though they put them in that position.
Yeah, well, I don't even. I mean, I think I brought something up I shouldn't have because there's stuff I want to say.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you know what I'm talking about when I say that there's some things that,
Yeah,
you know, going to a meeting, some people get help that way, but some people it's just, well, we see them every day out on the streets because they can't live in society because of what they've seen.
exactly.
It
I mean,
unless
when you have a 5 and 6 year old trained to shoot you,
yeah.
that messes with your mind.
Well, there's a lot of it. Yeah.
You know,
Unless you witness somebody that's went over and done things, and they couldn't even done things, they just seen things,
Yeah.
and then they come back and you see the difference in them. It just
PTSD.
oh, there's a huge difference.
yeah, you know the difference. You have a loved one that goes and I'm not saying they did something, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing or good thing or anything. They could just see something, see the devastation of what other humans do. It changes a person, and then when you see it, when you see somebody that you've seen a certain way, and then you see them afterwards, it's heartbreaking.
Don't open your mouth about it because it could end up bad. If that person wants to talk about it, they'll talk about it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's it. I mean,
Yeah, when my father went to Korea, I mean, he was everything. He's got a paratroop badge, and then he screwed up his ankle on a drop into North Korean territory, and then that healed up, and then he was a tanker, and that's when he got that mustard crap thrown down that somehow the hatch opened up. He's got this scar down his arm. It's whatever, and he saw so much shit that they had to send him to Japan for a month just to R&R.
Yeah.
And then they threw him back right in the fray. And when they threw him back in the fray, Then he was recon. Now you all know what recon is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go out with a little flying platoon, maybe about 25 guys, and you're looking for the enemy.
If
So
that.
basically, you're a target. You
Yeah.
know? And then from there, he came home. So he's and he's always been a quiet man, but don't piss him off. Well, not now, but back in
Yeah.
the day. Because once that little switch clicked in the head, you know, I mean, he wasn't dangerous, but you know, he'd get to a point where time to get going. So,
Well, I put it like this. Back when I was real small and I didn't know no better, I had a cousin who just come back from Nam. And I asked a question. Uh, how many people, and I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
yeah.
He flat out told me too many, plain and
Yeah.
simple. And
Oh, yeah.
I've noticed anybody who has saw stuff like that, that's the answer you'll get. Period. Is
Well, you're lucky you got an
Oh,
answer
you
at all.
lost count. You know?
yeah. Well, I
But you
think
got
I
to
was about
too in that situation. It's unfortunately the K word or BK'd, and you know
yeah.
you've got to make it like the guy lives across the street from my pop. They're real good friends. He actually took my father up to D.C. to see the Korean Memorial, and it's
Okay.
an honor flight they call it. And
Yeah.
he 10 or 15 years younger than my pop, and he was in Nam, and he was on a gunboat that rode up and down the river, and it had
Oh,
quad 50s on it.
I'm gonna tell
And
you
he
what.
said they'd see the VC, you know, taking pot shots at him, whatever. They'd
Yeah.
light up the side of that stream into the woods. It said it looked like a big buzzsaw going through the whole thing. And he's a guy that could talk about it all day. He doesn't know how many, you know, unfortunate people were,
Yeah.
but you know, it's a different mindset, I guess, when someone's trying to delete you and you know.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you something. I'm, in a situation like that, I'm talking wartime, okay? If you do delete someone, you standing in front of God, how's that going to go over? I have
Well,
not had.
he, to me, he already knows. So it doesn't make any difference what you say. He already knows you.
Right. He knew
you
you did it when you did it.
yeah. If you felt good when you did it, you know, like, ooh, yeah, I got him, you know, that kind of thing. He already knows. So the fact that I don't think he would ask, you know, it would, you wouldn't even make it up there if it was something that you enjoyed doing, or if you felt remorse, that's a different thing, because he already knows what.
And not only that, he was the one that put what's called an adrenal gland in your body. So in that situation, you know, it's you know, delete or be deleted, and that's
Yeah,
the way I believe.
and it's not the fact that you did. Who put you on that path?
Your
Okay.
government.
No, I
He
mean,
did.
God did. It's
Well,
whatever
yeah,
you do is his path of
will.
making you go that, not making you, but he already knows your path, so he knows. You know, it could just be a wake up thing saying you're a bad person, you don't deserve up here because
Yeah.
you enjoyed what you did. But there's a difference between the people who,
Having to do it and enjoy doing it.
yeah,
Well, see, I think you are the only one who has explained it that good, yeah, which it really does make a whole bunch of sense.
Yeah.
You know. But my Bible says, "Thou shalt not." How did it go? Is it murder or kill?
It depends who you ask.
King James Version, I want to say,
It's kill.
is it kill?
Well, see, King James came after a few other Bibles, so
Well, that's true too.
yeah, it all depends who you or whose Bible you go by and stuff.
I mean,
But
Jeff, you could look at it this way. You could be a law enforcement officer and have no choice
yeah,
but to delete someone. Does that mean you're going to hell? Of course not.
it's like that dude in the mall. Well, there's many cases of this.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, does he think that, oh, I better not do this because I won't go to heaven? Or is he thinking about saving everybody else in that mall by taking the guy out? And it's not him taking that guy out. He's saving lives by taking the guy out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, it doesn't look like the Vineyard Chicks are going live tonight. They're probably still on the way back from their gig. I just wanted to double check before too late.
Let me get it. I was handed something today, and I'm hesitating. But, yeah. I was told to take this with some orange spice drink.
I can't see it. You froze.
Horse milk.
It's backwards.
Okay, how's that?
No, you can't. Your camera's backwards.
I know. I had to do that. That was the best. Oh, it's called Horse Health. Okay.
Oh, well, Eric knows what it is. You can't say it on here though.
Horse health?
They give it to horses.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a big thing during the sickness thing.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there.
Okay.
But I was told to take it with something else that started with a T. It's a spice.
Turmeric?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you do that, make sure you have pepper with it.
Wow.
Because turmeric won't work unless you have pepper. It just takes longer to absorb in your body. If you grind up fresh pepper with it, it absorbs in your body faster.
Well, now hang on.
There you go. Tequila.
Is it safe talking about this now?
No.
Okay. Let's move on to another subject. I didn't know that. I didn't mean to bring it up.
Yeah, I don't know what about. Well, why do you need to take it? I'll let go from there.
Well, you know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
They said that her father has the same thing I got, and after he took it, he's okay.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Read between the lines. Iverant.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a paste. I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
Just not a toothpaste.
Right. And it all okay. How can I
One tequila,
on my
two
camera?
tequila, three. Oh man, that would be horrible to only be able to take 3 shots of tequila.
That's sacrilege.
3 shots is well back in the day, okay?
Yeah.
Probably about 40 some years ago, maybe 50. 3 tequilas get me started.
Yeah. You didn't want to make you didn't want to give me tequila back in the day.
Grace,
I only got meaner.
now, Grace said it can't hurt you. What happens if I start nagging the wife?
It won't hurt you. She will.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, same here. Same here. You always try little bit and
Yeah,
see if there's side effects.
I was
Because
told about the size of an eraser with that.
probably, yeah. Even these herbal remedies and stuff.
Yeah,
A lot of people will go 90 miles an hour and get into it and make these concoctions and don't think about it. You don't know your body type or what chemicals or your brain releases or anything that could have an effect on anything that you take or anything you eat, rather. So
well,
you
it's
always
like
want to
athletics.
test it out. That's why they like a mushroom. If you don't know what the mushroom is and you're starving to death, don't go munch it down. Rub your finger on that mushroom and then rub it on your lips. If your lips go numb, don't eat it. I'm not telling people to do that, but that's an early warning thing because your lips have so many nerve endings in it that when you rub something like that on your lips, if they go numb, it's a big warning not to touch it.
Not me. It all depends on who I'm with.
Come here, Warner. Oh, you're so heavy. Say hi.
Hey, kitty puss.
He's like, no, not the camera again.
Oh, so he's one camera shy.
And I don't think they don't like seeing themselves, even though, yeah, he's been on the screen for years because that's who that is right there is him.
Oh, okay.
And it
Now,
was
you
actually
gonna have
on the back of this chair that I had covered up with a green shirt.
Then
So
you're gonna have some people saying, "How can he be there and you holding him at the same time?"
yeah, well,
We may end up having chicken and dumplings before this week's up with.
is it the rooster?
Yeah, he's a big one too, boy.
Is he mean?
Well, she just got him today, okay? And the guy told her he can be mean. That's the reason he got rid of him is because he went after his one of his youngins.
Oh, yeah. You know how to fix that, don't you? Well, besides putting them in a pot.
No, I sure don't. Cause putting them in a pot's how I fix them.
Yeah, the youngin has to deal with it himself.
I had y'all gonna think I'm cruel, But I had one come after me when I was a youngin'. I snatched him out of the air and wrung his neck.
Yeah.
The rest of them didn't mess with me no more.
Yeah. That's how it's done. But if that person runs like a, you know, they'll
If you
keep doing it over and over again.
well, I look at it like this: if you run at the rooster, stomp your foot at the rooster, and everything, that's challenging the rooster. It's
Yeah.
your fault,
Yeah.
you know. But oh yeah, he does crow.
Yeah. My good old bunker. Well, see, I can pick the chair up.
That's
Yeah.
right. There's
I had
5 of
somebody swearing up and down that I was rich because I had a bunker. I said, "You didn't realize this is a green screen, don't you?"
Guy from Russia that came on the other day, he thought you were in a bunker.
Yeah.
Grace, I ain't doing that. If I wave my hands, it's for me to tell him I'm coming after you.
And if you look at the cat right there, that would be a big cat. And I could actually here, I can make that cat really big. That would be a big cat. There, that's more.
Attack of the kitty. Attack of the kitty cat.
So, Jeff, what would be your plan? And I don't want to hear you would just sit there. You being in your house and you're getting water filling up that fast on your floor. What would you do?
I'd load my truck and get the heck out.
Oh, well,
Because it's not just me. I
yeah,
got my wife to think about.
yeah.
Her
And
safety is my number one.
where would you go? Don't give actual locations or anything like that, but
No, I'm not. It depends because I got to go through shit. I got to cross 2
that,
main bodies.
that's what I was getting at right there is,
If the water here is flooding that much, then I know that right there, I can't do that. I'm going to have to pull up on the map and try to find me some shortcuts.
yeah. And that would be something to do. I'm not saying that's, that you involve, weeks of time to do, but to have some sort of a plan. And I hate to say it, but yeah, getting on a roof is a temporary solution.
Yeah, I get
Yes, it is.
Because
it's like I told my grandson today. He's 20 years old. He don't know nothing about this. Okay.
yeah,
He said he went across some high water, and I told him, I said, "Don't never do that again."
yeah,
He said, "I ain't worried. I can drive through." I said, "Look, you got 4 tires touching the cement. One tire gets lifted up off that road." I said, "Your whole truck's gone, and there ain't a thing you can do about it."
mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here. I'm trying to tell him I done been through this, but
Yeah,
the best thing you can do is buy you a topo map. Find out where your high ground is and how high it is. And then from your house to where that high ground is, you make a road or you follow the closest road to it and you stay there until it's over and done with. But y'all remember this, just because you find that high ground don't mean somebody else don't already know about it also.
mm-hmm.
And good people can be bad people.
Well, whatever high ground you got to go to,
We're going
have a
to,
you know.
yeah.
Well, I'm prepared. I'll put it like that. Okay. I'm gonna leave it alone at that. I am prepared.
Well, that's the main thing, and it's you know, you hear too many times that, oh, it just came out of nowhere, and a lot of times it does. You know, like a tornado. Sometimes you never hear it, and then boom, your house is gone, and you're flying.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do in those situations, but I would rather have some sort of plan in place. You know, kids are not here anymore, and whatnot, and hopefully they've learned.
What you taught them.
Yeah, and they have some sort of plans in place and whatnot. But when they were here, we had, and it was a fun thing to do. And I didn't make it, you know, like, oh, listen up, this is not a game or anything like that, because then it wouldn't have been, they wouldn't have learned. They would have hated it, you know, instead of learning from it.
Well, you know, when my youngins were coming up, I take them camping. Okay. And at that time, I could start a fire with wet wood. No problem. I had no problem. I taught them what to look for, what to do, how to do this. You know, I taught them everything that I know. And don't get me wrong, I don't know jack compared to a bunch of these people out there. All right. 2020, I'm learning all over again, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. And everybody should be learning like, I'm not saying every day, but, you know, should always try to be learning stuff. Because I think when you think you know everything,
You don't.
you're already screwed. There's no help for you, because if you know everything, then chances are you don't. and
it was a boy, a young man, who thought he knew everything and went out in the cold weather to try and survive, and he didn't make it.
Oh, I'm right there with you, B. I have an issue with dates and names a lot of times. So I'll remember stuff, but I'm like, it was sometimes in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody over the age of 50 gets that disease. It's CRS.
Where you at, cat? Oh, come on. He's being ornery.
What life? I grew up with Willie Moscone and Dom and Fats. Minnesota Fats. At that time, they were the two best. Now, from what I've seen, there is a Korean woman who is off the hook. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah. I never thought I would get old. I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it that long. is the stuff that I went and done and been through and stuff. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
And that's how I lived. You know, I did some stuff that people don't walk away from, and Yeah. And
Oh,
when I met my wife, it was like, oh, I have to get old.
a 180.
Yeah, it's a difference. And then, I would do some crazy stuff, like working on things, and don't you do that. I'm not going to get hurt.
You ever worked on a TV while it was still plugged up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have too.
I've got I got zapped across the room a couple times too.
Now, I will admit, I lucked up on that. But the person sitting beside of me, he wasn't so lucky. See, you get somebody like that, you learn what not to do.
Well, the thing is, it depends on your wife sitting there too, because I would be jiggling a wire and go like that and scare the living crap out of me.
Now, I always make sure when I done something like that, she was nowhere around because she would do something like that.
Yeah. Well, you remember TVs that weighed 200 pounds and whatnot that had tubes in the back?
Yeah, we had quite a few of them.
When you unplug them, they still zap you.
Now I will admit, I know that.
Yeah, I grabbed a hold of that thing, pull the thing off the main tube, and it's bad when you taste electricity, and Watt probably knows that.
You're not tasting electricity, you're tasting your feelings. That's a whew.
Now, now, my uncle got me into electrical field. Okay, I was going to be what was back in the day. It lasted one day. We was at a school, and he told me to go and wire up an outlet. Fine, no problem. Hell, I didn't think they had the power on. Dude, there was an imprint on the wall behind me of my back all the way down to my rear end. I told him to take me home. I quit.
I remember, I don't know if it was a house or a building we were working on, and the guy said, you see that little rod right there next to the power box? That has to come out. And I said, okay. Go up there. And I'm pulling on that thing, and it's just because it looks like it's only yay big. And I'm pulling on that thing, I can't get that thing out of there. And he has this tool where he clamps on the ground, it steps on the ground, and you crank down on it, pulls it up.
Like a jack.
And this thing is like 8 feet tall. And I'm like, hey, no way I was going to get that thing out of there. He enjoyed watching me trying to pull that thing out of there.
Have you ever been told to go get some type of stretcher or sky hooks from a job you worked at?
No.
Dude, don't fall for it. I got into heating and air conditioning, okay, the first time. My best friend told me, he said, Pop's going to ask you to go get a duck stretcher. It's the back of the truck. He said, there ain't no such thing. I said, all right. Sure enough, he asked me to go get one. I looked at my best friend. I said, all right, where's it at? He said, it's back of the truck somewhere. I went down there and I sat in the truck and had me a break. And he come down there wanting to know how come I ain't come back with that duck stretcher. And I said, because you know damn good and well there wasn't one to begin with. So that'll teach you. He laughed around and walked off.
The only thing I remember is I worked for this construction place that put the big tanks in for the gas stations for the gas,
Yeah.
and we would level it off, and then it had to be packed down in, and we had to run a stomper thing. And they said, "Well, that's your job." And they actually got it down in the hole and everything for me. And they started up, and they said, push the levers and it'll start going. And that thing took off with me. It was going like this, going all over the place. And I actually got good at that thing. I actually stood on the back end of the stomper thing and started up, and I was bouncing all over the place. And I was getting good to where I can control it and stuff. And they said they ain't seen nothing like that, because usually that thing will throw people. And I just got to where I could sit there and control it and stomp on it. Now, afterwards, I was always going like this afterwards, but I got the job done.
I had 3 toes broke with one of them things, trying to turn it around in a ditch. Ain't nobody ever showed me how to operate one.
Oh, it operates you.
Yes, it does. All you doing is holding it up. That's it.
Yeah.
You either tilt it backwards or forwards.
Yeah.
But I hate them things. And I hate sawzalls too.
Yeah, now they got the hydraulic ones and the quieter ones. I'll say quieter. The one I had was gas. That thing, it run you out. Oh man. If you, even the big guys would sit there. Well, that's the same thing with like the jackhammers. Except for it going up and down, you had to push it in there. Oh,
stuck.
And there was different bits that you would put on the end of it, and there are certain bits that were better than others if you had to run it.
Mm-hmm.
I hated the long flat ones because they always got stuck, and then you had to lift this thing up out of there because you couldn't run it and lift it because it would just shake you to death.
Nobody told me that either. I had to Now, I'll tell you one scary feeling. That's when you're working in a soapstone mine. All right. You got those hammers going down the side of them or on the edge of them, making holes to drop dynamite in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask if that's what you were doing.
That's exactly what I was doing.
Well,
with dynamite and blasting caps.
Yeah.
I had to go over a 300-foot cliff on a rope. They lowered a jackhammer down to me. That's fine. All right. I've got to take keys out of the truck. Some dumbass got in the truck. I heard it when it cranked up. And I thought, if I survive this, I'm going to kill him.
I got a better one than that. Oh, boy.
Thank God I believed in sharp knives at that time, because just as soon as I come up over, I cut that rope. He took a nap. I'll put it like that.
Well, at the time they used it was all electronical stuff. They still run wires down and stuff, but I knew the stuff that I was putting in those. Well, me and another guy, it goes boom, you know.
Yeah.
So they got, I don't know where they got it, but they had a stitch of fuse that you light, not the cord, but it was it was the actual, like the old fashioned, you light it and throw it and run type thing.
Yeah.
And they had tied it to something. I don't know what it was, but all I seen is that thing going down. We were on the ledge and they threw it down from up above because it was a granite, where they did the slabs of granite stuff. And they threw it down. I jumped into the quarry, which was full of water. I didn't care how deep it was or anything. I seen that thing light up. I was gone because I thought, we were shoving these long cylinder Play-Doh things in these holes, and my mind thought that it was dynamite was getting ready to blow up. I was gone, and they didn't even have rope that went down that far. So I'm sitting in this quarry just treading water for the longest time until they got something long enough to bring me up. And oh man, I was scared to death. And the other guy just sit there and looked at it. Evidently he'd been down that road before, but I wasn't. And oh man, that scared the crap out of me because I thought I was going to blow up right there.
Well, let me
And
tell you
it
what.
wasn't no long. By the time I seen it, it was short like that. So I didn't, a normal person, well, maybe not a normal person, but would have pulled it out of the stick or whatever it was connected to. I didn't even see the other end. All I seen was that. I was gone.
Now, when I done it, it's the first time I ever messed with primacord, blasting caps, and dynamite. The guy told me what type of dynamite not to mess with. If it's sweating, leave it alone.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
The stuff that we used was you could throw it against the wall or whatever. It was basically Play-Doh in a long tube.
No, this looked like dynamite. That you would see. You got to push the primacord down in there.
Well, that's what we did. Is we had these long tubes, and we had it in backpacks because we were in the what they called mid-range.
Okay.
So whenever they had baskets underneath where we were at, for whenever that it would start splitting, and that was the amazing part. You would think if you put explosions or explosives in these holes that it would make big holes. It cracked sections, and it was just amazing how that did that. It would hit certain sections, and we'd move over to the other one, and it was you would have a hole here, and then like 6 to a foot or whatever, there'd be another hole, and it would all blast at the same time, and you would get this big chunk of granite, and then they would just crane it out of there.
But I was always told never let the blasting caps touch dynamite because it could go off. That's all I was told. I said, all right. So they sent me up there to get a case of dynamite and about, some blasting caps. I said, no problem. I put the blasting caps in my pocket and put the dynamite on the back of the truck. And they said, we got dynamite. Where's the blasting caps? I reached in my pocket to pull them out, and every one of them run. Nobody told me what they could do. I'm going to tell you what. Come think about it. Yeah, I should have been dead quite a few different times.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I can say is this right here. God sure was looking down on me them days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. Well, I think I've said this story before, but My dad had bought a motorcycle from somebody. It's actually for racing, not street racing or anything. It was a legal racing bike. And it actually had and I don't know what to call it, a CC bar or something like that goes on the back of it so you don't flip it. And it had been taken off, so it could be driven on the street. And I was like, I can ride it, It's just a bike with a motor on it. And I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it was a Kawasaki, and it had what they call a power band.
Yeah.
And ditto in second gear. I went from second gear and then hit that, and woof, my feet left the pegs or whatever you want to call it. And it took all my strength to get the rest of my body back on the seat so I could shift into the next gear. And I was probably going at least 200 plus miles an hour down. I forget what it was called highway, but I can't remember the name of the road, but it's the south side of Tucson, Arizona. Not many cops go out there because it's a bad section and stuff. And I was hauling. There was no stopping at red lights or anything like that. And my uncle, who bought the bike, said, "Who is that stupid, person riding on that motorcycle?" And the guy sat next to him, he says, "I think that's Chucky." That's what everybody used to call me. And
wait till this October, you're really going to get hammered.
and he said, "I'm selling that damn bike as soon as I can." And next thing I knew, that bike was locked up and it was gone.
That was the very first bike I bought my son, was a Kawasaki with a power stroke.
Oh man!
My friend had a KZ 1000. It was
That's
actually
fun.
my bike because I paid for the repair. Never paid me back. But he was riding next to me. Of course, I've been on the bike many times too. And he encountered what they call a high-speed wobble. At least they did back then. And yeah, and the front, the forks, the neck, I mean everything, and it's just
Yeah.
It even had it was like a race bike because it had a strut, so you could only really move the bars so far to the left or to the right. It wasn't it was more of a drag bike.
How do you get out of that?
You don't slow down. That's
There
the
you go.
worst thing you can do is
Yeah, it gets faster and faster the slower you go.
and that'll bend a rim. You're going to go over the top of the bike at 140 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You got to stay in. Don't accelerate, but stay into the throttle because sooner or later it's going to balance.
Yeah.
And it slowly balances. And then once it balances, then let off a little bit, then maintain, then let off a little bit, then maintain. And a lot of guys don't realize that, and they're rolling down the highway and they end up a big lump of whatever.
Yeah. Or they slam on the brakes. Or they get paranoid and only do the handbrake. Yeah, front brake. Or the whiskey throttle. Where you go to stop and you crank it. That's always a fun one. I've only done that. It was on a golf court or golf car. I went to put my foot on the brake and I actually hit the gas pedal and took out a couple golfers.
Oh,
what are you doing?
I almost got into, seriously into bikes, but then I got behind a big block 4-speed with a posi rear, and I'm like, no, this is it. This is heaven.
Oh,
I'm a hot rodder. The
yeah,
bikes are fun, though, till you get, I mean, you're in because let's see, I'm right-handed, so I'm better with a left-hand turn. To where you're really leaning way over. Boy, you hit a patch of sand or just one or two pieces of gravel,
yeah.
and
Back
tires
slides
then
out from under you.
the tire technology back then isn't what it is now.
Yeah,
You just you fish. It isn't even a fishtail. It's just a see ya, whoosh, out you go.
yeah.
And there's $500 for paint job, and rebending your pipes.
Exhaust.
Your gas tank's cracked, and I'm just like, nah. And then you've got we'll call it road rash, raspberries all up and down your arm, your shoulder.
Knock on wood. Well, I wouldn't, just a little bit, not real bad to where you need where they have this little bottle and they squish the stuff to clean you out.
Yeah.
I've seen it that bad, but I've had it scrapes on my legs, and that's about it.
Sure.
Now I've got road rash doing other stupid stuff, not on a motorcycle.
A fast car will get you deleted too, real quick. So
yeah. I was actually being pulled by a car, and the bike didn't like going that fast. and then sliding on that's the worst part. It's not so bad rolling and banging all over the place. It's when you start slowing down where you slide across that concrete or asphalt.
My friend, he had a Mach 1. It's a 71 Mach 1 with a 351 Cleveland. And he always used to try to beat me in my 442, and he could never do it. And one day we were on the highway, and I don't, to the life of me, I don't know why it happened, but he was doing about, I don't know. I don't want to get too involved with talking about it because then I'll sound like a crazy kid. He lost the tie rod. And you want to see a Mustang take a right-hand turn right into the woods. I mean, whoop, that was it. The car was total.
Oh, I remember in my Monte Carlo, let's just say I was trying to get away from things. And again, the car had 50 slicks on it. And I knew I could, and this was before, drifting and everything was a thing. I dropped it in a lower gear and slid around the corner, but it slid more than it was supposed to. And it was smoking all the way through before the turn and everything. Hit the curb and bent the brakes and everything were pretty much shot, but the doohickey that goes inside there, you know what I'm talking about, that goes into the rear end.
The pumpkin? The axle?
Well, the
ring and pinion?
The outside axle part of it, where it mounts up to the tire. That whole part. No, it's the actual drive of it, but not the. Oh crap! I forget what it's called. But anyway, it goes into the rear end. You have one on each side. It was posi, so it's even worse. So that whole section was wobbled like this. So my car was doing this. Wow. I still got away and everything, but lot of
and we will make America great again.
Ivies,
Avis.
Avis. Yeah.
Avis.
Are you talking about a brake drum?
Oh, that was shot too, but
A vacuum plate?
it's the axle that goes into the rear end, not
Yeah.
the axle drive axle, but on the rear end that goes
Right,
inside.
yeah, the axle. Okay.
Yeah, and so you just don't replace the outside part; you have to replace the whole thing that goes all the way in.
Right.
And that when I took it out, you could see the bend in it. So it wasn't so bad right here, but where it got back, that wheel was going like this when I was driving down the road.
Huh.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, what's up, God?
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff made it good. The storm was thinking of him today.
I gotta go take care of something.
Well,
I'll be back.
Okay.
well, we got stars tonight.
We do too. We had a little storm today, but it wasn't as bad as they were telling us it was going to be. Yeah, we had about 0.2 of an inch, Grace. They said we could have 4 to 6 inches.
I have no idea. It rained. That's all I know.
Yeah, you sent me an email, right? And I got on the computer and I saw the email as soon as I got on Gmail. It was awfully humid today. It's like 74 dew points still.
Oh yeah, I was going to get out and finish some work in the yard, and I said, "Oh no, I'll do some work in the house."
I had some weeds in the garden before I got on the mower, and I was just sweating through my clothing. My pants were wet all the way to my knees.
Oh yeah, that's why I was the other day. All my clothes were. It was like I just walked through a shower or something. Even my shoes were wet. The inside of my shoes were soaking wet.
I hate this weather, and it could be like this till the first week of September.
Yeah, I might as well move down south.
Yeah.
Bushcraft, I'm boiling some more water.
Oh no.
Jeff, did you lose power yesterday?
No, something else happened. I'm not going to say up on here.
Okay.
He burned his tea.
Oh no, that was about an hour ago.
At least it wasn't a tornado.
We had 4 of them touch down. 3 of them. 2 of them close to me. Another one probably about 2 miles from where my daughter lives.
Yeah, you said last night that it was about 3 miles away when 101 was on. Man,
Yeah.
that's awfully close.
Now, B, you're telling me that you wouldn't let me move down to Florida? We could be neighbors.
That's what she's scared of.
I think southern Florida wasn't too hot today from what I saw on the Weather Channel. I think northern Florida was bad.
I don't know. Ask the people in Florida. They'll tell you something different.
Well, I know the western part is really humid from my son being there a few times.
I don't care whereabouts in Florida you at. You got water surrounding you. That means
Yeah.
the humidity is going to be high.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, at least on the east side, you get that breeze all the time. But a lot of people hate that wind.
Yeah.
Because one person, Grace from New York City, she's mentioned how the fact that she's so close to the water, it's not as bad there some of the time. I guess it's which way the wind's blowing. Because I know we haven't been to the shore in 30 years. You go to the shore, it's not too bad. You get a few miles inland, it's bad then again.
I got a notification said that I had a deposit, and it's just a normal, it's their way of making free checking something, because they'll bill you for $5 and then they'll give you $5 so it's free, some weird thing like that. But I had noticed it says your deposit, and it was like $997,000 or something like that, and I'm like, what? I was about ready to go down to the bank and draw it right out real quick.
Withdraw.
What was
Yeah.
it from?
Huh?
Was this an email?
Yeah, it was just because the email didn't come out quite right, and I had to open it up all the way. You know, sometimes it'll stagger it too close or something. And I'm like, what? And when I opened it straightened it out. But I was like,
Wow.
I was going to take that money out, and I said, we're going to go find some land somewhere.
Yeah, landlord's cold, not hot.
Well, it's the thing. Wherever you go, you're going to have something that
Yep, either hot or cold, snow or
hot,
rain.
cold, wind, rain.
I mean, if we were like even 500 feet higher, it wouldn't be as humid. Because you go up in the Lehigh Valley, even the valleys are higher than what we are. And once you cross the Lehigh Tunnel and you start getting up in elevation, it doesn't get nearly as hot.
Well, I think everything goes in phases and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's if I remember back, you know, maybe 6-8 years ago, we had really humid couple years, and then it was like and it started out with the drought, and then the next couple years were really humid, and then it would level out to where it would be normal again. And then, you know, it was stormy, and then, you know, it's all cycles, I think. It's just how the climate is. Everything goes in cycles.
Well, we're having a hotter summer than last year, and what surprises me is when you have a drought, you usually have hotter air temperatures because the ground doesn't have the moisture in it.
Yeah,
We've had basically enough rain, you know, compared to last year because we're not in a drought. But it's gotten so hot. I think it got to about 90 out here today. And then when the ground's got a lot of water in it, it's going to be more humid.
mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to say this right here. Normally, down here, when we have a real wet summer, we have a bad winter. I don't know how it is up there where y'all at.
Well, it depends on what you think a bad winter is.
About 6+ inches of snow on the ground.
Oh, that's just winter.
Yeah,
If it's
for
a bad
y'all.
winter, it's below, you know, 20 below and lower for weeks. That's a bad winter. Snow isn't. It's just snow, you know, unless it's in the feet.
Because the past decade, it seems like when we get precipitation is when it's rain in the winter. Then after we get rain, it gets really cold. Because we haven't had much snow. I remember the winter of 1996, Philadelphia set the record for snow. It was like 30 inches. During the tree business in 1995, the second Friday in December.
Really, 96?
Was 96. Actually, in 19
That wasn't that bad.
1995, we had snow on the ground, I'd say from the second weekend of December until till the middle of March. That year and in January, I think we had close to 3 feet of snow out here.
Oh, 78, 79. I don't know which. I think it was both, but from 78 to 79, that was
Well,
That's 79 to 80 here.
that was the worst I've seen because it was over 6 feet.
Yeah, because we never had 6 feet, but 96 is the year we broke the record for snow that January. Then in
So
96,
y'all had snow. We had ice.
then not the December of 96, all it did was rain. It was the wettest December on record, or one of the wettest. But it's like bushcraft; it goes in cycles.
Mhm.
I think
Well,
if they,
history speaks itself.
I'll be curious to see if what it's like in September and October if it gets cold quicker this year. Because this year was the earliest they said Philadelphia ever got to 100 degrees.
Well, that's what I think. I think it has to do like a cycle through all through Earth and stuff, like, because I think that's its way of trying to heal itself from, you know,
Bad elements.
us men, you know, humans.
Well, you figure the trade winds are changing too through the ocean, and that affects the weather. Some people say with what's going on down in Antarctica, North America could eventually become a desert. Somewhere down the road.
Well, see that's the thing. You get one scientist says one thing and the other scientist says something different. Because I've also heard that, you know, the movie, the northern part of United States would be ice age, basically, be buried under snow and inhabitable.
We could be buried under snow, but be a desert at the same time. Like, look how technically Antarctica's a desert. Like, people don't associate it, but Antarctica is technically a desert. Because I was reading how, okay, what we're told on the news allegedly is the ice caps are melting in Antarctica from like the top going down to the ocean. From what I've read, it's the opposite. It's melting from underneath because of all the salt water.
Well, that they said that this had been years ago. You know, with all the what do they call the prehistoric ice places? You know, the old icebergs that are moving and stuff on land that's been frozen from. Yeah. They'll show pictures of it, and they say, well, Florida will be underwater by 2000, and then they moved it up to 2010. And, you know, how many years has Florida been said they're going to be flooded? Yeah, glaciers. Yeah.
Well, it's just like the best way to tell with the ocean level is where the Statue of Liberty is mounted, because the salt in the water made a line there, and people on our side have said that level of water hasn't changed at all. The mark hasn't changed. And you figure Manhattan isn't underwater, Miami isn't underwater. All of Al Gore's predictions about the oceans rising have not come true, allegedly.
Well, other than Trump causing the flood in Texas, they said that one of the main reasons why we're getting floods, which we've always got floods, because I still remember years and years, you know, the Mississippi flooding way far away and stuff like that. But they're saying the reasoning why is because cutting down all the trees. When the trees go, there's nothing to keep the dirt and the mud and everything from going in the water.
Yeah.
And all that goes in the water and raises the level.
But the Mississippi, reached near record lows where they found remnants of boats from the 1800s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Submerged.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I think the hurricanes in the 60s, I think it was a Hurricane Camille, they showed areas, people's homes just underwater miles from the Mississippi River. The sad thing is, a lot of people, it's not good to live next to a river. I remember, it's a long story. When I used to do landscaping, I planted trees for this woman, and she was complaining about having water in her basement. Well, where her house was in the development was the bottom of the hill. She worked at my wife's office. Then her and her husband got sick of the water problem and moved and bought another house, and they did the same thing. I said, you should have bought a house up high in the hill, not on the bottom. I mean, some of this, if there's areas of Texas that are prone to that, maybe people shouldn't, live in that area.
Hey, Timmy.
They're up north of us in Schweinsville, PA, is the Perkins Creek. There are houses that are built on stilts. Well, it got to the point where there was so much flooding, so many rescues, FEMA actually finally bought out some of these properties. I mean, who wants to live next to a river? It would be like me building this house down in the dry creek bed. I'd be asking for a flood. Hey, Jeff. Oh.
Well, I asked Jeff this. What would you do? You're sitting in your living room right now. Water started coming in, and it was filling up this fast. In your on the floor of your house right now. What would you do?
He'd have to go to the second floor.
Why would you go to the second floor?
Take it away from the water.
Okay, the water's still rising, and it's now at the second floor. Now you're trapped in your house. What are you going to do? You know how many people died in Katrina by moving inside their house up? There's only so far you can go.
Well, I'll tell you, the same thing happened around here in 1971. Hurricane Agnes. There were old homes that were built in the 1700s by the Skippack Creek, and we knew one family, Dr. Peters. He was a psychiatrist of Armenian descent. My grandparents knew him, where they had to get to the second floor of the house because the creek just overflowed. And the sad thing is people still keep living in these homes that are next to a body of water. As I was saying to my wife today, the dry creek bed, water would have to rise 25 feet to get up to where our house is, and it would take a tsunami for that to happen because of the elevation change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good question to think.
Yeah.
What would you do? And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to move upstairs or move in the attic but eventually you either have to go through the roof or, well, what do you drive? Is there, from your house, is there a way to get to higher ground?
Well, from here there is. We're at like 240 plus feet, and where the high school is up the road is about 404 feet. But since I've lived in this area my whole life, I know what floods and what doesn't.
Yeah, but you can't know that.
No, we've had rains. Actually, 3 or 4 years ago, we had 8 inches of rain and remnants of one of the tropical storms. And even before we built the house here, Hurricane Floyd, we had 10 inches of rain in this area.
Yeah, that's the thing you do. That's what we're up north when we don't never have tornadoes, and then
There's been
tornadoes happen, floods happen, there's all kinds of things that happen or that can happen.
Well, the tornadoes usually occur. They've had some in the Reading area this past year. They actually occur more often in the flatter terrain. Like right here, it's so hilly. It would be amazing if there was a tornado that occurred. There was one in Worcester Township a few years ago, and it was near Havener Road, which was really flat farm ground.
Yeah, I'm up on a hill here, and I've seen tornadoes forming in this area, but the closest one hit not too far from here, ripped their roof off, and luckily they weren't there. And it took them almost 2 years to get that repaired. Now,
2 years
insurance, getting money from the government type stuff. You have to prove it's a tornado, and you have to prove this, and you have to get documents from this and that and other. Well, I'm sure, B and Eric knows all about, that stuff down there, because they probably have to deal with that quite a bit with hurricanes and stuff. Well, did it register as a hurricane? What was it? The outer skirts of the hurricane,
Because back in the 90s, there was a tornado that had Limerick, PA, fairly new development. And it's sad. One whole family got wiped out. All their neighbor, it was a real small, tornado. The neighbors' homes were all right, but it destroyed one family's home. I think it was probably, trying to think, it may have been around 2019 or 20 where the one on Haven Road touched down. Like I said, around here, it isn't flat at all. Everything around here is just all up and down.
Okay, the girls are here.
Which girls? I'm sure.
Vineyard Chicks.
Oh, okay.
I keep checking to see if they're live, and I just noticed. So I'm going to send everybody on over there. Here's their link, because they didn't have anything set up, so I didn't know if they were going to go live or not, but they are live. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Okay. I appreciate everybody heading over there, and I'm going to put a post on my community tab, even though they don't call it that, the post tab or whatever you want to call it now, about next week's shift scenario. So if you have any ideas of what we should talk about next week, I'll make the post and leave the comments there, and we'll decide on that. But I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight, and run on over to the Vineyard Chicks and say hey, and we'll see you Friday. Yeah, hope there are no fireworks going on, so it should be pretty good. The cats were freaking out from the night before, and I didn't want to have to get up and tend to the cats and stuff when last Friday, so that's why I didn't go live then. But I will see everybody Friday. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Have a good night, everyone.
God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you.